I spent way too much money on Blu-rays this month. Let's talk about them. Excuse me one moment. What's up, everyone? Reddit Reviews here with another episode of Physical Therapy for you, this time for the month of September 2024. We're almost to
Halloween.
Oh my God. Let's talk about movies, because that's what makes us all happy, because that's what physical media and physical therapy is all about. Talking about our physical media and getting through the pain and anguish of the real world and how much money we spent on our physical media. So I do have to say, I'm sorry, I do not have the action extravaganza 4K 80s classic featuring Chuck Norris, however I worded it. Invasion USA. It was supposed to be Invasion USA. The buy fell through. It didn't happen. I do have the other title I promised, a recent out-of-print 4K title, but I'll get to that in just a second. Stick around to the end of the video because I have two out-of-print Blu-ray titles at the end that you're going to want to check out. One is a late 80s family sci-fi film, and it's achieved immoral cult status. Also have a 90s action film starring Wesley Snipes from Warner Brothers, and you're going to want to check that out. Anyway, let's get down to it, shall we? So that first title I promised, the out-of-print 4K, is Logan Lucky on 4K. And for some reason, the 4K of this seems to be out of print and the Blu-ray's not. So you can readily get the Blu-ray, probably for really, really cheap. Logan Lucky is basically about a couple of brothers played by Adam Driver and Channing Tatum who decide to try and break the family unlucky streak and try and basically rob the Daytona 500. The Charlotte Motor Speedway during the Coca-Cola 600. So basically a NASCAR race. So in order to pull off this heist, they first need to break out of prison a safecracker named Joe Bang, played by Daniel Craig, and then return him to prison during broad daylight after the heist is over. Steven Soderbergh directed this one, and I'm a pretty big fan of his. I love a lot of his films from the late 90s, like Out of Sight and Traffic, to name a few. Logan Lucky kind of falls in the footsteps of Ocean's 11, 12, and 13 in the fact that it's basically Ocean's 11, but in the South.
You were just fired.
I was let go for liability reasons involving insurance.
The one-armed bartender.
You need to show a little respect. Charlotte Motor Speedway. I know how they move the money.
One of the characters refers to it as Ocean's 7-Eleven. Pretty damn clever, coming from the guy who directed both films. Logan Lucky is definitely worth your time if you're looking for an action comedy with some heist elements. Daniel Craig is pretty damn funny as Joe Bang, and Adam Driver, as always, is great. The rest of the cast is pretty good too. It's actually an ensemble cast. Even Seth MacFarlane shows up in this, for fuck's sake. It has a pretty big part too. Logan Lucky, you should definitely check it out.
Now, how many yards away is the vault?
20 yards. I don't know, maybe 30.
Is it 20 or is it 30? We are dealing with science here.
Now it's time to get down and dirty with one of my favorite comedies from a late great director, and that is Dirty Work, featuring the late great Norm Macdonald and directed by the late great Bob Saget. Dirty Work is a little comedy that really flew under the radar for a lot of people, I think. It was kind of crude and not really much of a plot to it. The movie just kind of ends, and I think that's one of the funniest parts of the film. Norm Macdonald just basically plays himself throughout this movie. Him and Artie Lang play two brothers who start up a business of revenge for hire where, you know, you're mad at your boss, hire us and we'll get back at him for you in a clever and funny way.
Oh my goodness! What are you doing? I've never seen so many dead hookers in all my life.
Lord knows I have.
A lot of cool cameos in this. Gary Coleman, Chris Farley, lots of people show up in this. It's something that could never get made now, especially with how irreverent it is, and I love it for a lot of that.
As long as the rent's on time, you don't wreck the place, we're okay. If not, I punch you in the stomach, eh?
This is put out by Olive Films on Blu-ray, so if you're coming from the DVD like myself and most people probably are, this is a pretty damn good upgrade. As far as bonus features, I don't think this thing has anything on them at all. So, you know, if you're looking to just get the movie, this is all you really need. Honestly, I'll probably never buy this again or double dip unless there's something really crazy that they do. But for my money, this is worth owning, and it's about $20 or less from Olive Films, so it's relatively affordable. It's not crazy out of print or anything, but highly recommended if you're in for some irreverent laughs and, man, some great comedy legends in this. This next pickup, I'm really not going to say much about at all because it's basically an upgrade from Blu-ray to 4K. That is Doctor Strange on 4K. So this was one of the few remaining Marvel movies I have yet to upgrade to 4K. The only other one I need now is Iron Man 2. And there you go, Doctor Strange on 4K. Upgrade it, maybe? Next up, we have one of my favorite comedies of the early 2000s, and that is The Whole Nine Yards on Blu-ray. The Whole Nine Yards is something I really didn't care much about back in the day, but after about 10 years or so, I saw it again and it grew on me. So every time I see this, it gets better and better for me. Everyone is great in this film. Of course, Matthew Perry and Bruce Willis steal the show. Basically, Matthew Perry is a dentist living in Canada, and known gangster Jimmy the Tulip, played by Bruce Willis, comes in and is Matthew Perry's neighbor. Of course, Matthew Perry being Matthew Perry can't leave well enough alone and ends up getting involved with him, and antics ensue. I won't say a whole lot in case you haven't seen this. I really highly recommend checking this out. It's great performances by everybody. Again, Bruce Willis and Matthew Perry steal the show, but everyone is great. This is a great classic comedy of the early 2000s. I haven't had a chance to check it out myself, but I hear that this transfer on the Blu-ray isn't that great in comparison to the DVD. But in my mind, the Blu-ray is always going to be better than the DVD, so I had to get this on Blu-ray. There was just no question about it. It's not out of print. It's actually pretty easy to find. It's just going to cost you about $20-25, give or take. Don't let people fool you into believing that it's out of print or really hard to find. It's just not as common as most Blu-rays are. I've looked for this for a while. I ended up going with eBay and spent about $25 getting it. If you're really passionate about this one and you want to own it in the best format possible, pick up the Blu-ray. It's the best you're going to get for now. We have just crossed over the halfway mark, everybody. Yes, this month has been a lot smaller than previous months, but I have been a lot more frugal this month as I am going to LA to attend LA Comic-Con. Insert graphic now. I also want to take this time to remind everybody to please like the video, subscribe to the channel, and please follow us on Instagram. We are at red.i.reviews. On with the show. Next up, we have what I consider to be Brett Ratner's best film in his entire filmography.
Rush Hour.
No, it's Red Dragon on 4K from Kino Lorber. Red Dragon is a prequel to Silence of the Lambs from a book of the same name by Thomas Harris. And of course, following success of Silence of the Lambs, we got Hannibal, Red Dragon, and some other movies, shows, I think. I don't know.
This is a very shy boy, Will. He'll be a bodybuilder, of course. Look for extensive tattooing and corrective surgery to the face. He is refining his methods.
I don't think anybody knows you at all, dear.
He is evolving. We mustn't judge too harshly, Will. Have you never felt a sudden rush of panic?
Honestly, for my money's worth, I really like Red Dragon a lot. I know people have their problems with it as a film, and I know people have their problems with Brett Ratner. I agree with you there. But honestly, this one's all right. And I know you'll say there's Michael Mann's Manhunter out there, and I like Manhunter as well. I honestly just think Red Dragon is a little bit more accessible in terms of translating that material to film. Manhunter is great for what it is. I just prefer Red Dragon.
What? No!
Whatever, it's Anthony Hopkins reprising his role.
Who gives a shit?
The production design on this is great. The attention to detail and continuity are pretty damn good.
Unacceptable!
Even Brett Ratner's direction isn't so bad.
Stop him!
It is Brett Ratner, though. Kino Lorber has done yet another fantastic job with another 4K. This blows the old Blu-ray from Universal out of the water, as do, most of Kino's releases, I guess. If you love Silence of the Lambs and you haven't seen this in a long time, or you just haven't checked it out at all, I do say check it out. It is worth your time. Everyone in this is great, especially Ralph Fiennes, Anthony Hopkins, of course. Philip Seymour Hoffman is in this. He has a great, small but impactful role.
Oh my dear God, Jesus.
Edward Norton is fine too. Nothing wrong with him.
You dirty little beast.
Red Dragon, it gets a lot of shit, but I honestly really enjoy it. You could keep giving shit to Brett Ratner, though. That's fine with me. Make me a sci-fi movie featuring child and man on quest, written by dead acclaimed director, directed by living acclaimed director, include technology. AI is gonna kill us all. No, not that AI. This AI from Steven Spielberg and Stanley Kubrick. Now, before you go flaming me in the comments, I actually happen to like this film, and it took me a long time to get there. I at first did not like the idea of Steven Spielberg making a Stanley Kubrick film without Stanley Kubrick after he passed in 1999. I initially wasn't on board with the idea for this. So time passed and I felt a little more comfortable watching it. I finally watched it and I kind of dismissed it as crap and, it was okay, whatever. And another 10 years went by. I recently checked it out again and I love a lot more of it now. I still think the ending is shit, but AI is about a child robot prototype named David, played by Haley Joel Osment, who is programmed to love.
I was just learning to love.
And the family that he is brought to live with rejects him because of this programming. He is cast out into the evil streets of the world on his own. He meets up with a mecha named Jude Law.
Fuck you.
And he goes on a quest to basically find himself and his purpose in life. Basically, this is kind of a Pinocchio story, and my disdain with this is basically based on the ending. It is very Spielbergian, it's very sappy. I think it could have went a different direction, but honestly, I like the majority of this film, so it was kind of a no-brainer for me to pick this up on Blu-ray for about $6 or $7 used.
In a distant future, in an age of intelligent machines, he is the first robotic child programmed to love and coexist as a member of a family. His is a tale of humanity and a journey to find his place among humans and machines.
I'm a boy.
You are a real boy. At least as real as I've ever made one.
Fuck.
I don't know. I like most of this movie, and I'm sure it's about to be released on 4K from Paramount or Warner. I found this on Blu-ray for about $6, and I haven't seen it around a lot of places, and it's been kind of earworming its way through my brain lately, so I've been thinking about it a lot, and it kind of just popped up when I was at a store one day, so I had to get AI. Next up, we have a film from director Michael Bay, and that is The Island on Blu-ray. So The Island is something that I heard about when it came out and was basically told for so many years that this is a terrible film and you should avoid it at all costs and don't waste your time, right? Wrong. I'm here to tell you, you're not wasting your time with this one. The Island is pretty damn spectacular, especially compared with modern action films. But Michael Bay just has a certain flair and touch and style that I've always had nothing but love for. Yes, his cuts are frantic. Yes, his action is big and bombastic, but that's how I like it. And honestly, The Island isn't his best film, but it's actually still worth a watch. Ewan McGregor and Scarlett Johansson play clones, and they are part of this compound, and every so often, people from this compound are chosen to go to the island and promised on how great the island is, and everybody's go to the island, and oh, did you hear Joe went to the island? He got out of here. They get out and escape and find out that the island is basically crap, and that, well, I don't want to spoil anything else because the plot of this is actually pretty damn cool. Again, this seems like it's going to be garbage, and you might have heard that it's garbage. It's worth checking out if your rental fee is only $3 or $4 on streaming. If you can find this on Blu-ray, which it feels like it's getting a little bit harder and harder to find these days, although it's not impossible to find on the secondary market. If you're in for some action, some intrigue, Ewan McGregor and Scarlett Johansson escaping the man, hey, The Island's for you. I think it's worth your time.
Welcome to the lottery spin. Jordan to Delta. You're moving out to the island. Transported to the world's last paradise.
I think they're gonna kill you.
I'm going to the island.
There is no island! Come on!
2 of our products have escaped.
Do not let him get away!
This next title I have a soft spot in my heart for because I saw it at a young age. I don't know why, but I kind of like this film. It's kind of silly, but it's Pet Sematary II on Blu-ray from Shout Factory. Now, I know Shout Factory is going through all their Blu-ray titles and basically reissuing them in 4K, so I have no doubt in my mind that this is going to be reissued on 4K any day now. I'm okay with that, because I'm okay with just having this on Blu-ray. Pet Sematary II takes place after the events of Pet Sematary I, and while this film isn't based on a book by Stephen King or any other existing material, what I like about it is that it's original, it stayed close to the roots of the original film, it even references the original film a couple times, and it's also kind of its own thing. It just kind of takes the idea from the first film and runs in a different direction. Clancy Brown and Edward Furlong are the notable standouts in the acting department in this. Anthony Edwards is pretty good as Edward Furlong's dad. Doesn't really do a whole lot in the film. The film's mostly about Edward Furlong and his grief following his mother's tragic death and the events that follow. I do feel a strong craving for potatoes, though. Next up, we have one of my favorite films of 2023, and that is Air on Blu-ray, directed by Ben Affleck. Air is about Nike in the 80s and their fledgling basketball department and what they do to basically court Michael Jordan into making, well, what would become the Air Jordan. All the actors in this film turn out great performances. Ben Affleck is great, Matt Damon is great, Chris Tucker is great.
I'm not insightful enough to be a movie critic. Maybe I could be a food critic. These muffins taste bad.
So Air is one of the few biopics about something that happened in the 80s that I can really recommend, along with Tetris. Tetris deserves a physical release, and so does Air on 4K, because this streams on Amazon in 4K, but on physical, the best you can do is a Blu-ray.
What is going on?
Thankfully, this Blu-ray is only about $10, so that makes the punch a little bit easier to take. This is one of my favorite films of 2023, so $10 for it was a no-brainer. It just would have been nice to have a 4K. Next up, we have a doozy of a film, and something that I remember seeing a lot in my childhood, and even back then thinking that it was a little weird and something was wrong, and that is Mac and Me on Blu-ray from Shout Factory. So, if you are unaware, Mac and Me is basically an E.T. ripoff coming from the late 80s about a child who moves to a new town and he's wheelchair bound and he doesn't have a lot of friends. So, Mac, a small alien who has come to town, becomes his friend, just like E.T. did, literally. And so Mac befriends him and they become the best of friends and go on a crazy adventure. This film has been talked about on the darkest recesses of the internet. Many know of it now. It's become this cult classic that everyone's gotten into. I mean, hell, even Paul Rudd shows it when he goes to see Conan O'Brien and tricks him every time. I love that it's a running gag between the two of them. If the copyright will allow it, I'll show a small clip of that right here.
Actors always say that, like, when, I brought a clip, and that's not true. We don't really have clips and bring them along, but this time I did. I brought a tape.
You brought a clip. This is a clip of the final episode.
And I thought maybe you could show it.
Well, I'm just going to show it because why not? We might get in some trouble here, but as long as it doesn't give anything away,
I think there's a lot of interest.
Let's show this clip from the final episode of Friends.
Oh, they copyrighted me? Oh, okay. Yeah, well. Fuck. Anyway, Mac and Me has become the subject of many memes and lore and just jokes throughout the internet. I was really glad to pick it up on Blu-ray because it's been a while since I've actually seen the film in its entirety. Probably since I was a little guy myself, and man, I remember him in a bear costume up on the counter dancing at McDonald's. It was the weirdest thing. It was some weird product placement. It was just like, let's get these kids to see another movie like E.T. and McDonald's is financing it. God, I miss the 80s. I mean, where else are you going to get a scene like this?
They don't know how to drive anyway!
Drop him!
Fuck, that's dark.
It's about more than friendship. It's about adventure. Mac and Me.
And lastly, everybody, I promised you an action extravaganza that's out of print from Warner Brothers, starring Wesley Snipes, and that is Passenger 57.
Wesley Snipes, Passenger 57. Now give me a motherfucking handy wipe.
So Passenger 57 has recently, I don't know if it's really gone out of print, but it's gotten pretty hard to find lately. It's going into the high 20 price range online. So you really never know what's going on. These things, it might be $3 tomorrow, it might be $30 tomorrow, who knows. It could also be re-released in the future on 4K from somebody like Arrow, just as Demolition Man was announced earlier this week. But for my money, I'd rather have it now just to be safe in case we never get it again. And that really just shows you the scarcity of physical media and how streaming really has taken over and how you can't rely on this film being around tomorrow. So if you can get it today, get it today.
No, this is not happening. You, back to your seat.
His name's John Cutter. He's airline security. Tell me you're good at this.
I'm the best.
Plan not working out the way you want it?
Don't flatter yourself, Cutter.
Didn't your father ever teach you never send a boy to do a man's job? Wesley Snipes.
You need help?
No. He's all mine. Passenger 57.
This is something I haven't seen in a long time. It's basically Die Hard on a plane. Snipes is an ex-cop. He's escorting somebody somewhere else on a plane. Shit goes down. And again, it's basically Die Hard on a plane, and Snipes has to stop the terrorists. Can I say terrorists? This movie's great. I recently revisited it on streaming.
Stop him!
This movie's great. I'm glad to have picked it up on Blu-ray, have it in my collection. I'm really getting on board with the Snipes-assance, as you would say. Maybe I'm coining that term by now, but Wesley Snipes has gotten his proper dues as Blade and Deadpool and Wolverine. Maybe we'll see some more of him, and maybe the Snipes-assance is in the beginning. I want to see Wesley Snipes in more movies. The man should have gone to jail. And Passenger 57 is a damn good 90s action movie, and if you can get it on Blu-ray, get it.
You ever play roulette?
On occasion.
Well, let me give you a word of advice.
Always bet on black.
So there you have it. That was this month's episode of Physical Therapy. Join me next month for... Oh, shit, I don't have anything in the pipeline. Nothing in the mail. There is something that's coming next month. So join me next month as I talk about Second Sight's The Hitcher on Standard Edition 4K. I'll also have an unboxing of the Standard Edition 4K up on this channel. Join me for some small and light LA Comic Con coverage. I'll be going live throughout the weekend here and there. Might have some Instagram posts, might have some celebrity guests, who knows, might not. We'll see. Keep physical media alive and keep those eyes red, baby. See ya.
Too many things, too many things, too many things, too many things.
Next up, we have a fucking shit.